now, once and for all. No more games. To the death.
Here I come! I'll show you!
I won't surrender! Now pay for your betrayal!
Don't look at me! Please!
There is only one punishment. The sentence is death.
Try to be at peace.
Hello everybody, MechaZardax here. Back at it again to give you another very exciting collection reflection video where I take the time out to just go through my whole entire gaming library. Could be a game, could be a console, could be a limited edition. And today we're going to be talking about another limited edition, that being Fire Emblem Fates. Because oh my goodness gracious, I think this is the point in the series where this game solidified my love for the Fire Emblem series. My very first one was Fire Emblem Awakening, and I really liked it. But I didn't know if it was going to be a series for me until I went through and played through all the events and fates, and that just went to hardcore solidify this thing. So much so that I went back and picked up this limited edition years later, and it's technically not the, cheapest thing out there on the block though. But I mean, hey, but between all of this stuff though, I mean, between the two different routes that you get from either Birthright or by extension Conquest, great stuff that you can actually manage to play, and then obviously that leads into the third route with Revelation. So in today's video, I'm just going to give my overall thoughts on what I believe is a really great Fire Emblem games. I know not necessarily everybody out there is going to probably agree with me though, but at least for me personally, I really do love this game and really adore it. So we might as well go ahead and jump up in it though. But if you hadn't already done so, make sure you're going to hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight up into this video. Fire Emblem Fates. This is, I think, a very unique turning point for the series that I feel like a lot of inspiration was taken from this game and all of its future games from like every game. The games that came after this was like what? Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, as well as like Fire Emblem Three Houses and Engage. And I think between all three of those different titles, they do look back at this one in particular for some strong attributes that allow you to be able to do things within these newer Fire Emblem games that you weren't necessarily always able to do, and maybe in some of the past ones from the Game Boy Advance all the way down back to the Super Famicom though. But the one thing I really do love and appreciate about this game is your choices truly matter. That's like the definition of this game though, because obviously when you first start off the game, you had two different choices to make. You can either choose to stay with the Hoshiidans, which, that represents the Birthright game, or you can stay with the Nor people, which that represents Conquest. So yeah, Birthright and Conquest, you have one of those two choices to make. If you were buying the games physical back in the day when this game was originally on the market, you can buy one of those games physically and it costs about like 40 bucks or so. But then you could buy the other route that you didn't buy physically for like the DLC part of it for an additional $20. So that way you can able to go back and forth between, those two different versions of the game while only having like one version on the cartridge or whatever. That's the way how I used to play it back when I originally bought this game. Like I bought Birthright. Birthright was my original copy that I had. Then I went back and got the DLC for Conquest, and then once I was done with those two routes, then I went back and played Revelation, which is kind of like a mix and balance between those two routes, but kind of gives you the overall conclusion, hence the name Revelation though. So I really did enjoy my time out of all of these different routes though. Now granted, when you look at the two different versions, let's go ahead and talk about Birthright first, because at least with Birthright, between that and Conquest, it is technically a little bit easier. It gives you opportunities to be able to grind, get your levels and units up a little bit higher and stuff in comparison to the other version though. So I did like it for that regard though. So if you were newer, I would say, to Fire Emblem, especially someone like me who only played one other game before this, I think it was the perfect jumping in point. I did love the story and everything that was brought up in it, and at least within the Birthright version of the game, you did have a bunch of different family members and stuff that were tied, and these were the people that were actually related to you by blood. And there were as follows: you had Ryoma, you had Hinoka, Takumi, as well as Sakura. Those are the four people that really stood out to me personally. because there were your family members and you were constantly interacting with them time and time again though. Now originally you didn't grow up with these characters in mind because you were kind of basically abducted as a child or whatever though by like the king of the Nord region way back in the day when you were just like a baby infant, and you grew up with a whole bunch of other people though, but it was your interactions in a brief battle with these members here, they're like, wait a minute, you're our own brother. Like what the heck are y'all doing over there? You should be over here with us. And that's kind of the interactions that you had with Birthright. Now you flip it over onto the other side of the street or the pond. Then you had the Conquest people, which for the Conquest members, you had these characters from their family tree as follows. You had Xander, then you had Camellia, which Camellia, oh shoot, she is a fine woman. Like, oh my goodness, more on that later. Then you had Leo, and then lastly, you had Elise. And those were the 4 different members that were representing, the North style with Conquest. Now, Conquest is a much more, I would say, difficult game though, because your EXP farming that you normally could get from like just random battles in between certain story beats, that was not prevalent at all while you're trying to go through and play through this game though. And those moments were like few and far between. Yes, you did have some parallel battles, but even those were somewhat kind of limited and stuff. So every decision that you made in that game really mattered, because there wasn't like a whole bunch of redos. And especially if you decided to set the mode up on permadeath, where it's like enemies that fall in battle weren't going to be brought back as like the casual style way that you could choose in your mode. I'm not a one that sticks with the permadeath. I'll put up with it in the games that it forces you with, such as like Path of Radiance or like Blazing Blade or something like that. Back in those GBA games, Sacred Stones and stuff, I'll put up with it there. It annoyed the heck out of me though. But once they started including the casual mode back with an Awakening onward, I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I love seeing all the different character interactions and stuff though. But yeah, Conquest was a very challenging one though, but it did put it did definitely challenge your mind quite a bit though, in terms of some of those decisions. Really wanted to make me pull my hair out at certain times though. So yeah, those were your 2 different routes between Birthright and Conquest. But the game always recommended that once you finish both those versions, then you can go down to Revelation, which then you can have both sides of the family and they will kind of band with you. They weren't necessarily allies with you at first. You kind of have to win their favor over the course of the Revelation route though. But then, you take them, get them behind you, and then you really take down the god or the dragon, whatever, that was really pulling the strings from like both sides of the Birthright or the Conquest stories, with the ways how those managed to play out. So yeah, so you got a lot of replayability out of these 3 different games. It was like 20 hours for one, 20 hours for the other, and 20 hours for like Revelation. I think it's what it roughly took me for me to go through and play through all of these. So 60 hours for a grand total between 3 different games technically. Hey, I said it was really worth it, at least in my honest opinion though. So that was like what, $80 I spent between all 3 of these routes though. So yeah, I really love, honestly, the heck out of it. Now the parallel battles and the interactions and the characters, that's a whole nother side that we got to talk about here real quick, because I always love my parallel interactions and stuff, which that's what Fire Emblem is really known for, with the support units and stuff. And I remember going through and doing your battles and stuff, man, I was so always trying to stay with my characters, like try to have certain units that I want to have, quote unquote, marry. I'll talk about that here in a second. Or just ones that you want to build up the support units with. I always had a big habit of like linking them up to be the same unit on the same tile, or having them right next to each other though, because I always love to see how certain characters really got to interact, especially with voice acting and stuff, which voice acting that started to become a little bit more so a thing in Awakening onwards into Fates, and then obviously in like Shadows of Valentia it was like full-blown voice acting, so that's when they really went the extra mile though. But this was the game right before it though. I always did love seeing all these different characters interact though. But I think one of the things that a lot of people didn't necessarily was a really big fan of is whenever they had those interactions where it's like you can marry certain units, and by extension it can cause you to have certain children with them. And it's weird because it's like, okay, having a child is one thing, but having a child with the time travel stuff, and then you put them in a certain area, then they get aged up real fast thanks to time travel, whatever, and then they're like 13 to 18 years old or something like that, standing right next to you fighting in combat and stuff. That part to me was always a little bit strange though. I wasn't necessarily like a huge fan of it though. I did like the pairings, don't get me wrong though, but the children aspect though, I was like, okay, I guess they did allow you to have some more units to replace some other ones that might have fell in battle, which was always a benefit if you were playing on permadeath though. But if you weren't necessarily doing that and you're just thinking from a story-wise perspective though, it's like kind of take with it as you will though. But I did love my own personal character in the game, which her name was Connor, because I always played as, you know, male corn, so I got the female child up in there though. Connor was definitely one of my favorites because, you know, with her having dragon blood descendant and stuff like that, she was putting a lot of work up in, at least in my armies and stuff like that though. So I really loved and appreciated that character a whole bunch though. And lastly, one of the other characters that I did not manage to get to talk about thus far was Azura, which Azura is technically the woman that managed to stay by your side through thick and thin on both routes, whether you choose Birthright, Conquest, or Revelation. She was always with you through thick and thin, and I really did like her character quite a bit. She wasn't necessarily the flashiest or the most creative person out there though, but just like having a solid companion you can always constantly refer back to, I really did like and appreciate her. Especially, oh my gosh, that one special dance that she does to kind of, I guess, trick the king or something like that, to kind of ease his senses to figure out if he was demon possessed or something like that though. I love that dance. Not so much the Birthright version though, that Conquest theme one. Oh shoot.
Embrace the dark. You call a home. Gaze upon an empty white throne. A legacy of lies, a familiar disguise. Sing with me a song of conquest and fate. The black weather cracks beneath its weight. Night breaks through the day. Hard as a stone, lost in thoughts all alone.
Shoot, sometimes I'll even go back and listen to that track nowadays though, which that's a whole nother can of worms right there. The music in Fire Emblem games are so good, and I love the heck out of mostly all the soundtracks of any game I managed to go through and play, but Fates in particular though, with this like really strong Japanese theme that you can see in the portrayals of all these different character designs. Man, oh man, I was there for every bit and second of it though. Like Nintendo, yeah, I got that Nintendo Music app now. If you're gonna throw out a 3DS game, put out Fates just purely for that music alone, please though. But yeah, honestly, I really did like the music. I like the characters and such and everything else that came with it though. Now, obviously there is the big major elements of the story, which honestly, I could probably be here all day if I wanted to talk about all the little bits of story within the Birthright, the Conquest, and the Revelation. So I won't dig up into that big can of worms though. But rest assured, if you're somebody that really want a lot of replay value, somebody that want to be able to explore all these different routes, you get the biggest bang for your buck if you play through all three of these things. Like there's some things in Conquest that makes some things make sense in Birthright, and by extension Revelation, and same thing with Birthright, and you know the list goes on and on, especially for Revelation. Now, I think one of the things that necessarily didn't shine the most with me when I look back at this game in comparison to some other games we got, such as like Three Houses Onward, is the fact that the characters that you'll pick up along the way, yes, you might have a few of them that might kind of stand out to you, but like in comparison to Three Houses, where it's like you grew up, or not necessarily grew up, but like you train these students from like the academy days up into the war arc and stuff, like you can almost showcase off any character's face in Three Houses. I might not necessarily think of the name, but I can recall upon all the different experiences I had with each one of them by the time I ran through that game, like what, 3 or almost 4 times at this point though. Whereas with Birthright and Conquest, I didn't necessarily have that strong emotional attachment with a lot of these other units. They were just kind of phasing in and out for me, more so outside of the core family members within like the Nor or the Hoshido side of things though. So yeah, that's one of the things I felt like character uniqueness in terms of standing out beyond like just the core, almost like 10 characters or whatever though. I feel like that was one thing they could have done a little bit better in Birthright though, but all things considering, like the combat and stuff, the strategy, being able to make your own choices, which lead into like, you know, the different routes and stuff you're able to do, that's some things that I really did love and adore, and which they took it they took those consequences or benefits from you doing those decisions in this game and implemented that into Echoes and into, you know, Three Houses and etc. though. So that's some things I really like. So overall, I really do love the heck out of Fire Emblem Fates, and there's a reason why I went back and picked up this limited edition for this thing though, because I was just going through and trying to get every single physical version of Fire Emblem for my collection. Everything from like Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade on the GBA, all the way where we're at with Engage. I was just trying to get everything. I actually do own all those games physically now though, because I just really love myself some Fire Emblem. Like, this is the strategy go-to game for me personally though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below, what all do you think about Fire Emblem Fates? Are you a fan of it, or are you not? It's okay if you aren't though. But I mean, overall, I just love what the Fire Emblem series has managed to bring to the table, especially out of this one edition, out of the whole entire series right here, because there's some good things in this game. Some things that, yes, could have been executed a little bit better though, but outside of that, what was there, that diamond in the rough, oh man, especially for a series that was almost about to die after what was it, Awakening, if it didn't perform too well. And then for now it's like a staple within Nintendo's IPs though. So man, oh man, I love myself some Fire Emblem. I gotta call the video at some point though, so we might as well go ahead and end it here though. So if you really like this video, make sure you're gonna hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.
Ah, I see you missed your big sister. You're so cute.
Y'all thought I forgot about my woman Camellia. I told y'all I said I'll come back around this thing. Y'all thought I forgot. No, if y'all looked at that little bit of a cutscene right there and didn't feel anything special for all the guys out there, I mean, you might need to go through and check through some things though, because I'm telling y'all, this is easily one of the top tier Fire Emblem waifus that you can have out there. I'll say this once and I'll say this twice. Man, oh man, it doesn't get much better than this. This is my video. I had to put it up in here. Agree to disagree. You ain't gonna harm me though, but I knew I had to stick it up in this video though. All right, all thoughts aside, that's truly gonna end this video, and I'll catch you on the next one, man. So see y'all.